Some mornings arrive without explanation. You open your eyes, but your body still carries a weariness that isn't just physical. It's a soul-deep exhaustion, as if every part of you is quietly searching for meaning in the midst of emptiness. The world outside keeps spinning, but within you, everything feels suspended. You ask yourself if everything is okay, but the truth is, there's no clear answer. Just a deep silence and a subtle yearning to keep going, even without direction. Doubt doesn't always come as a question. Sometimes it arrives as absence. Absence of will, of clarity, of inspiration. And it's in that space that faith reveals itself. Not as radiant certainty, but as an intimate whisper that says, keep going, even without knowing, even without understanding, even without seeing. Maybe that's exactly where you are now, caught between staying and moving, between stillness and impulse, between pain and hope. And as uncomfortable as it may be, this space too is sacred, because something in you still chooses to rise. Something within you insists, despite everything. Something believes it's still worth taking one more step, even when the ground is hidden. Today, this journey begins with a single truth. You are alive. And if you're alive, there is still room for transformation. You don't have to have all the answers right now. You just need to be here, present, breathing, holding space for what you feel, and allowing yourself to trust, not in what's already clear, but in what's still being formed. Because even in the uncertainty, there is a calling, and you heard it. The path doesn't always reveal itself clearly. Sometimes it hides behind the fog of doubt, emotional overwhelm, or the pressure of a life that demands instant answers, while your heart is still trying to understand how it feels. And in those moments, what sustains you isn't knowing where to go. It's choosing to continue. The mind seeks safety, explanations, forecasts, but the soul only asks for truth. And your truth might not live in a defined plan or a visible destination. Maybe it lives in the simplest act, to keep going, even without guarantees, even without knowing how many more steps it will take for something to finally make sense. Walking like this is not easy, with your heart in your hands and your feet uncertain. But that's where real strength lives. Not the kind that impresses others, but the kind that holds you up when no one's watching. The strength of someone who chooses, even without certainty, who moves, even without promises, who acts, even without applause. Life doesn't hand you the full map. It reveals one stretch, then another, like a dim lantern lighting just a few steps ahead. And that is enough. Because courage isn't born from control. It's born from surrender. If today the direction feels unclear, return to your decision. The decision to keep being who you are. The decision to remain faithful to what you feel. The decision to not abandon yourself halfway through. The path doesn't appear all at once. It reveals itself to those who walk. There's a part of us that insists on knowing everything. That needs to anticipate every step, predict every outcome, calculate every emotion. It's the impulse to control, a desperate attempt to secure safety in a world that, by nature, is constant movement. But this control, as tempting as it seems, is often just fear in disguise. Fear of losing, fear of failing, fear of hurting again. The problem is, in trying to control everything, you disconnect from the flow of life. And that disconnection breeds anxiety, a quiet anxiety that keeps you on edge, even when everything appears calm. Because within, nothing ever feels safe enough. There's always a missing certainty, always an extra doubt. And living in that constant state of vigilance, it exhausts you. It drains, it wears you down. But there is a turning point, and it's not in tightening your grip, it's in deepening your trust. Not trust that comes from giving up, but trust that comes from understanding. Life knows what it's doing, that there are forces at work even when everything seems still, that you don't have to carry the weight of predicting the entire future alone. Surrender is a spiritual skill and an emotional maturity. It's born when you realize you're not weak for not knowing. You're simply human. It grows when you accept that your role is not to be in the future, but to be fully present in the now. When the anxiety of control tightens its grip, return to your breath, to your body, to the present moment. Remember, the now is the only place where your power truly lives, the only place where life actually happens. And life doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for presence. Some days, fear arrives before the sun. It slips into your thoughts, tightens your chest, chills your hands. It whispers that you won't make it, that you'll fail, that everything will spiral out of control. And it's in those moments that faith stops being a beautiful concept and becomes a quiet, intimate decision, a brave one. Because faith is not the absence of fear, it's learning to coexist with it. It's when, even with a lump in your throat, you still get dressed and face the day. When, even with a heart in ruins, you take one more step. When, even with doubts screaming inside you, you choose to believe there's still a purpose, one that hasn't revealed itself yet. Faith isn't about always feeling strong. It's about continuing to walk, even with trembling knees. It's about saying with a voice barely steady, "I don't know how this will turn out, but I'm going anyway." It's about turning your very body into an act of courage. It's about moving, even slowly, when everything inside you wants to stop. There is a kind of faith that soothes, but there's also a kind of faith that ignites, that pulls you out of bed without offering any promises, that doesn't answer your questions, but lights a spark in your chest. A spark that says, keep going. You can feel fear. You can cry. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you real. And it's precisely in your vulnerability that faith finds its home. Because faith doesn't require certainty. It only needs space to breathe. And today, maybe all you need is to leave a little room inside you for faith to enter. Even if it's only the size of a sigh. Even if it's just for today. There are moments when life feels stuck. Nothing moves, nothing flows. Answers don't come. Signs don't show. Doors remain closed. And you feel trapped in a colorless time, directionless, purposeless. But what seems like stagnation is often just incubation. It's in this uncomfortable stillness that the soul begins to reorganize. It's in this motionless pause that the seed forms its roots. And roots are not visible. They grow in the dark, deep beneath the surface. But they are what hold everything that will one day bloom. So when everything feels frozen, look inward. Maybe what's stuck outside is only reflecting what still needs to be embraced within. Maybe there's pain that hasn't been heard, expectations long past their due date, old fears still asking for your attention, and to ignore them is like trying to force a plant to grow without fertile soil. Don't rush. Rushing is the enemy of true growth. Life isn't punishing you when it asks for pause. It's teaching you to listen, to notice the subtle signs, to honor the rhythm of things. And most importantly, your own rhythm. You don't have to understand everything right now. You don't need to know where you're going, but you can use this moment to clear your inner space, to release the weight of comparison, to rediscover yourself in the middle of the chaos. Maybe what you call stagnation is actually an invitation to rebuild, and every true rebuilding begins from the inside out. Before any great step, there is a silent moment, a deep breath that lives between exhaustion and courage. And it's in that subtle space that gratitude finds its home, not as a mechanical act, but as an invisible key that opens doors effort alone could never reach. Gratitude doesn't require everything to be okay. It doesn't ask for perfection, clarity, or abundance. It blossoms the moment you choose to see beauty in what remains. Even if everything feels confusing, even if the path is dark, even if nothing has changed on the outside, to be grateful is not to deny your pain. It's to refuse to let it take up all the space. It's to look at life, even in pieces, and still find something, no matter how small, that deserves to be honored. A warm cup of coffee, a roof overhead, a slower, deeper breath, a memory that brings warmth, a touch of kindness, a word that reached you. It's simple, but it's not easy, because the mind, conditioned to seek flaws, scarcity, and lack, will resist. It will try to convince you that nothing is enough, but the soul knows. It knows that gratitude doesn't change the facts. It changes the way you see them. And when your eyes change, the world changes with them. To practice gratitude is to shift your frequency. It's to leave survival mode and enter presence. It's to declare to the universe, even without everything I desire, I recognize what I have. And that alone is a quantum leap in consciousness. So before chasing answers, pause for a moment. Honor what's already here. Give thanks for what holds you today. Because gratitude is always the light that comes before the journey begins. Neuroscience has already shown the simple act of gratitude changes the brain's chemistry. And spirituality has always known. Gratitude opens invisible paths. Sometimes, what's missing isn't strength, it's grounding. Your body is here, but your mind is already racing toward what hasn't happened yet. Your heart is still caught in what has already passed, and in that split, the now gets lost. The present sits in silence, quietly waiting for your attention. Conscious breathing is a way of returning, of gathering your scattered pieces and remembering that despite the chaos, there is a place of peace within you, a place that doesn't depend on whether things are going right or wrong, a place that simply is. Take a deep breath now. Feel the air entering as a reminder, you are alive. Feel the air leaving as an invitation. Release the weight, let go of the pressure. Let go of the need to understand everything. Let go of the urgency, the control, the rush. This moment is yours, a sacred pause between all that you were and all that you are becoming. When you breathe with presence, you return to your body, to your soul, to the quiet truth that lives within you, the one that's so often drowned out by the noise around you. Repeat gently in your mind, I am here. I am present. I don't need to know everything right now. I only need to allow myself to feel this moment. Coming back to yourself is the greatest act of courage, because it's within that the real shift begins. It's within that faith finds its roots. This is your invisible altar, the place where the sacred touches the simple, where you stop merely existing and begin to fully live. There is a strength that is born in silence. It doesn't shout. It simply plants its feet firmly on the ground and whispers with conviction, "I choose to keep going." Not because everything is clear, but because what pulses within is stronger than the doubts circling around. Today is no longer just another day. Today reflects the posture you choose to take in this moment. The way you rise shifts the energy that walks with you. The intention behind your breath shapes the path ahead. So say to yourself, not in haste, but in presence, "Today I choose to rise." Even with fear, even with uncertainty, even with scars that still ache, I choose to walk. I choose to trust. I choose to treat myself as someone worthy of starting again. It doesn't matter what didn't go as planned. It doesn't matter what hasn't yet come to pass. Today is new ground, a new field, a new chance, and where there is choice, there is freedom. I am not a prisoner of what failed. I am the author of what begins here. Today, my courage doesn't need to be grand. It just needs to be real, to be steady, to be mine. And with that truth in my eyes and this decision in my heart, I go. Not to prove anything to anyone, but to remember who I am every time I nearly forget. Lord, today I woke without the answers. There are still doubts, still shadows, still parts of the path hidden from view. And yet, I chose to rise. I bring before you my restless heart, my unshaped plans, my hesitant steps, and I ask, hold me steady, not with pre-written promises, but with the kind of peace that soothes without explanation, with presence that embraces, even in silence. If my eyes still can't see, let my faith be the vision. If my feet still falter, let surrender be my ground. Teach me to trust when the world inside me begins to collapse. To not mistake waiting for abandonment, to not mistake silence for absence, to not mistake uncertainty for failure. Let my soul know, even when everything around me begins to doubt, I am cared for, I am guided, I am seen. I place in your hands all I don't know how to carry, and I welcome into my spirit the courage to continue. May I understand that I don't need to know the ending to take the next step, because faith is not a map. Faith is trusting the one who holds my hand, even in the dark. And if I should falter along the way, may I remember, your light doesn't need a road to shine. Amen. There are choices no one sees, yet they change everything. And perhaps the most powerful of them all is the choice to continue, to keep going, even without guarantees, to keep walking, even without knowing how it will all unfold, to continue because something deep inside you already knows. Life doesn't wait for certainty. It responds to courage. And if you've made it this far, if your heart heard every word, if you breathed a little deeper, felt a little more slowly, then know this: something has already begun to shift. You don't need to see change on the outside to recognize what's already transforming within. Your intention, your stillness, your surrender, all of it carries power. All of it is a seed. All of it is a beginning. And now, to seal this quiet choice, to live with more presence, with more truth, with more faith, repeat silently to yourself, I choose to rise. I choose to continue, even when I don't know the next step. I choose to walk with courage, even when the path isn't clear. And if these words touched something in you, if something stirred in your heart as you listened, let this moment echo beyond yourself. Share this message with someone who also needs to remember they're not alone. Write in the comments, "I choose to trust." And just like that, you turn this moment into a collective ritual. You turn presence into healing. You turn listening into awakening. Because in the end, life responds to those who are brave. And right now, it's responding to you.